Hi pals, it's me, Artie, they them pronouns only, and I'm here to talk about how to make your audition slash self-tape audition scripts the most... How do I explain this? How to make them appropriate for auditions. Lots of basic, helpful, useful tips for writers, directors, casting people who are amateur level, student level, you know, just some things that I've noticed when it comes to audition scripts and particularly self-tape scripts that make it harder for the actor to kind of work with and provide you with their best possible performance for your production, whether it's a live show or a film, etc, etc. Also, yeah, I have filmed this already because the audio was completely ruined. I've hopefully fixed the problem. Do not even ask. Don't even know why that is an option available. That only affected camera audio quality and not any other audio quality when it came to recording things. Not for me. But what is for me is talking about acting, performing arts, writing. So this is all based off of my own experience as an actor, things I learned when I was studying performing arts, acting, etc., as well as what I have learned in my creative writing bachelor's back in... I graduated in 2018, so it's been a little while since I was studying, but we did do a few modules that were either on or included script writing, as well as just my experiences since graduating and wanting to get back into acting and performing, what I've come across and also what I have heard other actors saying, and like both people I've known in person as well as in like online actor community spaces. So with that, I have a easy guide pretty much to how to make sure that your audition script is as helpful as it can be for people auditioning. I will also have this up and available as a blog post if that's your preference. So yeah, feel free to save this video, save the blog post for future reference if you ever want to look it over again. Yeah, I'm not sure if this does already exist, but it's just something I wanted to create based on my own experiences that I wonder if are being specified within courses or may not even be thought about if you didn't study film, acting, etc, and are more of like a getting into film performance a little bit later without the previous studying background. I don't think everyone should have to have that kind of training. I think that most industries should be open to teaching people without training, without like specific degrees and whatever, but it does seem to be that it's kind of a bit all over the place from my own experiences of who does what when it comes to writing these scripts. And my first point is literally formatting. There's loads of examples you can find on Google if you literally just Google script, TV show script, whatever. You can also go and pick up a book in the local library or something like that, and you can kind of just copy or like follow along the kind of rules that plays and TV/film scripts follow. But I have had a few scripts where the formatting is quite confusing. It's not entirely clear when a character is speaking and when they are moving. The formatting can change throughout the audition script, which again adds confusion. And like simple, clear formatting helps make the script easy to read, easy to learn, and easy to then create as a self-tape or perform at an in-person audition. Yeah, I'll include some examples that I can find on Google for you to see. But literally, it's pretty simple to find. I've done it myself. My second point is make sure that your scene doesn't move or change camera angle. And if it does, maybe just create an audition ready version of a couple of scenes you already have. Because when it comes to self-tapes, you cannot / also should not be cutting and moving and editing a self-tape. It's kind of meant to be a one take shot. Stillness. The focus is not on angle changes, the focus is on the actor themselves. So it's something to be aware of if you have quite a lot of directions of physically moving around, or if you've noticed that you've got quite a few like cuts in there for your own notes, or if the scene changes to a different place mid-scene, if there's flashbacks, you know, things like that. You might be better off editing a lot of those things out or down to just make it audition appropriate. You can keep those in for the actual filming of the end product, but when it comes to auditions, they can be a bit confusing and distracting. I see it quite a lot in the online actor spaces where a lot of people ask whether they should be filming self-tapes in that way, and they really shouldn't. It's just one take, no cutting, no editing, reading the lines in character. This also goes for doing too many things in one spot as well. If there is too much movement generally, even if the camera angles don't move, doing too many things can be a bit distracting from what you really need to be looking for in audition tapes. And like the general overall point I have for all of these is just that you need to keep in mind what self-tapes are and what their purpose is. The next three are kind of like all the same kind of vibe, but different specifics. Making sure that your script is not too long and not too speech heavy or dense. With a self-tape, you want variety, or like with auditions, you want some variety of speech, silence, internal acting, speaking to somebody else, speaking to themselves. Whatever's appropriate for what you're making, you want a variety of those kinds of things to be shown in the self-tapes or in audition. But pretty much most self-tapes and auditions you will need to see a mixture of speaking and silence, so you don't want it to be too heavy either way. Like if your show, film, TV series is going to have a lot of interaction with other characters, then you want to include a scene that has another character in it for them to interact with. I would also say limit how many characters are in the audition scene. Basically, your optimum number for that is 2 characters, the character that you want to see the audition for and the extra character. And I would say including things that help give the actors some idea of the background of the character they're auditioning for, the relationship with the other characters in that scene or who they're talking about, their emotional reactions to things. You know, rather than they walk over here, they are doing this whilst listening to blah blah speak. Like a little bit of backstory can be really helpful. You don't have to necessarily put that backstory, but definitely more of like the focus on emotions rather than on actions, if you know what I mean. Yeah, a lot more of a focus on how characters in that scene will react and respond to each other in that moment, particularly in context to the rest of whatever the project is that you are working on. And then the other side of that is make sure it's not too short or not too sparse of speech as well. Self-tapes won't really give you a lot if it's mostly if you're like expecting internalized acting. There have been scripts that I've seen that I was asked to read for one character, but they spoke very minimally, and most of the acting was, like I said, physical movement or internalized acting, and it's just not really something you can work with particularly easily, that will also really show off your abilities and skills that would be important to know for those kinds of projects. Yeah, so it's all about that kind of balance between not having too much but not having too little. And then the final point on sort of like time is like keep the script short. A page of script is usually about a minute of film, so I find that could be really useful for understanding how long the scene is expected to be and how long the self-tapes would be. I would say that around 2 minutes is probably appropriate. And it also helps, again, it helps make the scene easier for the actors to learn, especially as a lot of auditions tend to be sort of like last minute, have to be done within a few days and submitted. So especially if that is what's going on for you, if you know that you need videos back within 2 or 3 days, then yeah, you need to keep in mind that you need to have a reasonably condensed piece of script for auditions. This is one that I think is helpful and appropriate, as it's kind of becoming more understood these days than it really has been in previous years. But things like content warnings and access requirements for actors to make informed decisions about working on that project and working with you. A lot of pretty simple basic access requirements and adjustments that can be made are things like providing the scripts early, allowing maybe a bit more time for them to be able to record a self-tape. When it comes to content warnings, a lot of people do have and experience things that can be triggering. So even if it may not be considered triggering to you, it's to let people know what the content of your project is. I think there are some useful websites that can give you kind of like a list or like a rundown of the kinds of content warnings to include. And I mean, considering this is also where you're looking for actors to be in your project, it's not really spoiling anything, because they will or need to know what those things are, what happens anyway, before fully accepting if you offer them a role. So yeah, that's just something I think is worth considering and including either in the original call out or in the pack of information you send people when they show they have an interest in applying for your project. And then I also want to go over just generally what self-tapes are for, what auditions are for, what you should keep in mind when it comes to what you expect to see, what you need to see, particularly in self-tapes. Like I said earlier, first off, the main point is to see the actor's talent, to see what they can do, to see how they sound, to see how they look and how they move, and have like an idea of what including them in your project would look like in your mind's eye. But also, before asking for self-tapes, I definitely recommend asking if they already have anything recorded, whether it's previous self-tapes or show reels. I almost forgot the word for that then because that can help you narrow down who you would be asking to take their time to make a self-tape to audition for any roles. And it saves you time, it saves them time. It helps narrow things down and simplify things a lot more if you kind of go that route. When it comes to if you're making something that's filmed, so whether it's like a TV series, online series of some kind, or film, you want to see a different kind of acting than a live performance or like, you know, a play. I'm trying to think how to word things that now aren't also used on like an internet basis, because you can still have a live performance online streamed, you know? But yeah, the like film, TV, online series kind of acting is a lot more subtle, a lot more zoomed in. So you want to see those sort of small, minute facial expressions and changes in features. That's where you can see a lot more of that subtle, internalized thought process. If you're doing like a live play or show or even musical theatre, then you definitely want to see something a bit further away to see more of them and sort of see more of a stage appropriate performance, and yeah, the sort of more animated stage appropriate expressions as well. I think it's also helpful to see how the actors are interpreting your script and your characters. We all read and interpret things differently based on our own experiences and our own sort of like our own training. So people might do things differently. So it's always good to sort of write down what it is that you want from those actors for the characters they're auditioning for. So you have that in mind, possibly even letting them know that, but also to then think about what did the actors do differently that you actually liked, or maybe something you didn't like that they did, and like why you did or didn't like those things. And that's something you can then discuss with them if you want to bring them in for a live or in-person audition or not. it's also something you can give as feedback as to why maybe you did or like maybe didn't think they were suitable for the role they were going for, or any other roles that you had going. I find that a lot of the times feedback isn't given in that sort of way. It can just be really helpful, especially if you did like what they were doing, but maybe it just doesn't fit what you're looking for in that project. Yeah, my final point is pretty much just that self-tapes are not meant to be a finished final product. They are just sort of like a first draft, so that you as the director, writer, producers, casting, etc. can mould the performance to what you want it to be and show room for development. It's just meant to sort of show their raw abilities when it comes to reading, learning and interpreting a script that has been given to them. That's kind of it. Hopefully that's helpful. Like I said, I will put it on my blog as well. Hopefully I should have it scheduled so they both go up at the same time. So I'll link it in a card and in the description or comments or something like that. It will be here, and vice versa. Let me know if there's anything else that you have questions about, or if there's anything that you're an actor and you find really helpful when it comes to audition scripts, either being included or what you do find a bit confusing and difficult sometimes. I think it can be a useful resource to be able to share, especially if, you know, as an actor you've never been a director or writer or whatever, and then if you're a director or writer and never been an actor, I find that for me, having done both acting and writing and then like a little bit of like directing things in like a casual way, that it has given me sort of a reasonably full point of view of different kinds of projects like that help me make decisions for different kinds of things. But I know not everyone's interested in doing all these different things and have much more of a preferred focus and direction, which is totally fine. But yeah, I feel like we all have a lot to learn from each other, and all the different things that we've done in our different roles that can help make this all a lot easier and smoother overall. So yeah, that's my video advice on helping to make your audition script audition appropriate. Also going to have a quick plug here of the shows I'm in this summer. I'm going to be on the Brighton Fringe in May, so I think my dates are currently 20th, 21st, 29th and 30th of May. So if you are in the area during those dates and would like to come and watch the show, again I shall link in a card down below or in the comments or something. I think the tickets are £10. So yeah, if you're interested in seeing the show that I was cast in, please do book some tickets, bring some friends, share it around as well. And that's it from me. I will see you next week. Bye.